Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Radio Culturale show. As you know, we are exploring culture in various aspects, and the last time we spoke about music and culture, and today we're going to talk about food and culture. I am personally not a big foodie person. I eat for survival, but I do like to try different kinds of foods out there. But I do have some foodies here with me, and so I'd just like to introduce them. They're our OIA ambassadors, our office's ambassadors, and I'll just get them to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I am a foodie. I love trying different foods, and I'm really excited to do this radio show.
Okay.
Hey, my name is Mitch. I am also a foodie because I do love food. I love all types of foods, and I'm really excited to do this show. It's the first time. It's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool. Hi, I'm Hong, and I'm not a foodie. I like food as well. I mean, who doesn't like food? Yeah. I like to indulge in everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, again, we're talking about culture and food, and I'd like maybe, especially the foodies, can talk about what constitutes a cultural food.
I think anything, because for me, I grew up in Canada, so I have a lot of intercultural food that I've seen, but I'd say maybe Mexican food for me is a big one just because it's really good. I really love it. And nachos, tacos, stuff like that. I usually don't eat it often, but when I do, it feels good.
Okay.
I guess for me, because I grew up primarily eating a lot of different Asian foods, so Korean, Japanese, Thai, Vietnam. So for me, those aren't as cultural, I guess, because I was always brought up with them. But when I eat, say, Indian or Greek or anything that's very different from what I usually ate, cultural to me.
Yeah, makes sense because I am also from a different culture, and those foods people in North America consider like, wow, that's so different, and it's something that I just grew up eating. So I guess cultural food is very relative. So we talked about cultural food being food from various different cultural backgrounds, and I'm just going to quiz. They might be a little bit.
Oh boy!
Yeah. But I'm going to ask. I'm going to call out 4 different kinds of cultural food, and you can tell me what immediately comes to your mind. So food that comes to your mind. So if I said Indian food, what would you think about?
I'd think about curry and naan bread.
Yeah,
I do too.
I think about spices
I
like
think of curry.
cinnamon, like curry as well.
Yeah. I think curry.
So basically
Curry's a big one, yeah.
Okay, so yes, I agree, curry as well. But from where I grew up, I would also say things like dal, which are split peas or yellow peas, and they're also roti, so similar to the naan bread. Yeah. Okay. So if I said Mexican food, like Mitch called some of them before, what comes to mind?
Tacos,
Definitely nachos.
nachos, burritos.
And
burritos.
Yeah.
What else is there?
Guacamole.
Guacamole, salsa,
Yes.
Yeah.
Is avocado
empanadas.
considered Mexican as well?
Avocado.
Good
With
question.
that?
But
not
they grow
sure.
in many different places and they're used by many
Okay.
people.
Yeah, but I guess it's just featured in guacamole
Guacamole.
a lot, so it's
Yeah.
known for that.
Yeah.
Tequila.
That's very true.
And just knowing a little bit too, I know that they eat this little like cactus kind of thing that's in a jar.
Really?
Yeah, so that's so it's interesting, different kind of
Oh.
Mexican food.
I also think of hot peppers as well.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
true.
that's true.
Jalapenos,
They are
stuff
known.
like that.
That's
They
true.
are known for that hot stuff.
Okay. So if I said Italian food, what comes to mind?
Spaghetti and pizza.
I was just gonna
Staple
say that.
Italian foods
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
staple Italian food. Pasta.
Olive oil.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
For me, because I didn't really grow up amongst an Italian culture. I don't know. I only learned from, example, visiting the Italian Canadian festival here in Guelph. And one time they had a pasta, of course, with rabbit. And
Rabbit, really?
yeah, I couldn't eat it.
That would have been a pretty interesting experience.
Okay. And then
Tastes like chicken.
Yeah, exactly. And I tried saying that to myself, but I still couldn't eat it. I had to give it up at the end of the day. I tried. Okay, and then lastly, if I said Chinese food, what comes to mind?
Well, as an inexperienced Canadian, I would say chicken balls. But
See, like when we have dinner, I've never had chicken
No,
balls.
we don't. I think that's like a Chinese restaurant thing, but
Yeah.
not a Chinese food thing. I don't know.
I can't even think of what we.
Stir
Fried rice.
fried rice. Spring rolls. Well, I guess we're kind of biased because as Asian people, we're kind of our definition of Chinese food would be different than
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
those
And
people.
that's the other thing too, right? That a lot of people who are not, say, from the Asian regions would think that, say, sushi. I think sushi is one that stands out that everyone knows is Japanese, but
Yeah.
anything else that's kind of from that region, people associate it as Chinese instead of as Japanese or Korean or Filipino. So yeah, so we called quite a bit of foods that are probably not typical to these specific cultures. And why do you think that, you know, we here in North America are exposed to these foods that are not really typical of that region or culture?
Good question. So are we talking about like foods that we think are cultural, but in actuality
They
They're
don't
not.
represent.
Example, chicken balls.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because you know, a story from our international student advisor. I always remember he came from Malaysia, and I think his mom was Chinese. And so he said the first time when they came to Canada and they went to the Chinese restaurant and they had chicken balls, he said that was the first time he's ever seen chicken balls in his life. And growing up from that culture, you know, it's different. So we do associate these things, and I'm not too sure where they actually come from. But
I never thought about that. But I guess like maybe because chicken is like an important food in China. Like it's there's like representation. Like New Year, you have to have chicken. I think, and so maybe like as it traveled over, like then they modified it to appeal to America with like frying it because it's like in a fried dough.
Yeah, I guess because like if you were to, because I think that the foods that are cooked in China, in like Chinese cuisine, is doesn't always feature chicken, but I think that if you were to sell or market yourself in a North American restaurant, I guess, and then you have to like at least appeal to the consumer, and I suppose that chicken is like the universal meat.
Well, I always thought about it like if I went to China, I'm not sure if there's like a North American restaurant, and if there is, maybe that North American food is different than the one we have here.
that's
So it
true.
could be
That's
reverse.
true.
You know,
Yeah, if you went to a McDonald's in China, would it be different? Or
I think it would be quite different actually.
Yeah,
Because
I
I know even I went to New Brunswick a couple of years ago, and they had a McLobster, which I thought was so.
Yeah, it's true. Like our KFC in Trinidad, we have many different like things that are added to the menu. And I was having this conversation with a friend the other day who was saying we probably got 11 different spices than the ones.
The ones here.
That's probably true.
But it's true, yeah. And I mean, that's a good question to ask someone from another part of the world, like what do their McDonald's or Wendy's or KFC looks like. Yeah. But you know, the important point coming out of this is that when a specific restaurant of food the food is being sold or marketed in a specific country, they must appeal to the consumers. So example, the kind of Indian food, for example, you know, not many people like spicy food, so they have to tone down the spices so that it's going to taste different. It's probably going to look different as well because, you know, some of the foods, and not only in Indian culture, but some of them are pretty like, you know, kind of soupy looking, so it may not be as attractive. So they have to suddenly come up with these different kinds of foods that are going to still represent their culture but are different. And similarly overseas, you know, if you go to maybe some of the Asian countries, they're not going to eat the fries, so what's the point of selling those there, right? So they have to make it to suit the majority of their customers. I'm pretty sure in the bigger the biggest cities in these countries, that they must have the North American version
probably.
because they have a lot of tourists, and
Yeah.
that's what they're looking for. So I'm pretty sure that it will be over there as well too. So then we called out a few different foods that we thought were in from specific cultural backgrounds, and so obviously there are stereotypes. Do you think these stereotypes are positive or negative?
I actually think they're positive stereotype because it kind of showcases their culture off. And well, for me, food's never really negative anyway. So
Right.
if you're promoting something about your culture and it's something as good as food, I think it's positive.
I guess it depends what kind of food, because like I remember Vietnam has a reputation in quotation marks, as people who eat dog, and it's not a positive reputation. It's not a good stereotype, and I know that the majority of the population do not eat dog, but it is known that people do. So it depends on like what kind of culture you're looking at. So if you're looking at Italian food and all you think of is pasta and pizza, it could be good because it's still a culture. But I think that there's so much more out there than just pasta and pizza. I'm assuming, anyways, that there's more out there than just pasta and pizza and Italian foods. But I guess that's just the whole point of stereotypes, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's negative because it sort of limits what you can think of, because every time you think Italian, you think pasta, and you don't look into like, I don't know, the more authentic dishes that they have. I don't even know other Italian dishes.
True.
Well, I guess maybe the stereotypes, like if you go to Italy and you start off with these stereotypes, then maybe they lead you to branch out into the other foods that you wouldn't have known otherwise.
Yeah.
They're unpopular, but they're good all the same.
Yeah.
And some people may not even recognize those foods when they go there and be maybe a bit scared to try them. But I do encourage people when they travel to try different things. So what do you guys think about, say, traditional food that might have been changed? So I'll give you an example. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have many different cultures, but the biggest representations would be from the African descent and of Indian descent. So when we prepare foods, people would say, this is a typical African dish, or this is a typical Indian dish. And it is completely different from what I've seen represented as Indian food here in Canada. So to me, I think it's still a traditional dish of our home country because we have many different influences from various people who came in and had their influence at home. But is this really still a traditional dish, for example, like a traditional African?
I guess it depends on how far back you want to go, I suppose. So if you were to say like as far back traditional for me in Vietnam, pho would be our traditional dish. But it is based, I think, on the Chinese noodle soup concept, the cuisine for that. So it's traditional food for Vietnamese, almost traditional food for Chinese food, but switched. So it's not traditional food for Chinese anymore.
Right.
So I guess it depends on how far back you want to go. So if you go too far back, then no, it's not. But if you do, then I guess it depends.
I think it's traditional in a sense because the new food is still basing its origins off of the old food. So it's like you said, how far back you want to go. But I think a bit of the culture is still retained. So I think it's traditional in a sense, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's still traditionally African or Indian based, but then you've modified it to make it Trinidad and Tobago. So then that becomes your country's traditional dish.
Yeah. And again, like as Mitch was saying, that there are different aspects to the food that makes it still part of that traditional food. I mean, it might be modified, but again, the origins of the food are the same.
It's almost like food evolution, you kind of build on.
Yeah, that's true.
Stuff.
That's a good one. Yes, from the scientist. Okay. So I'd like to go back to a point that Mitch made. So even within North America, we have different kind of culture because of where we are from. So in New Brunswick, for example, there's more seafood. So they had a McLobster. I never even thought about that, and probably won't try it either.
Why not?
I'm not a seafood person. You see, I told you guys I wasn't a foodie.
So if you took the McRib and then you put it on
my
to New Brunswick, would it be like food shock or something?
Well, I think they still have cows in New Brunswick, but yeah, I see where you're going.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I mean, these are things that we didn't even think about. So in various countries, the different regions have different kinds of foods.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting because in Vietnam, we only have 3 regions. It's like north, south, middle. And then, we don't have a lot of regional differences in food, but whenever we do, it's really obvious that it is. So, like, for example, the South region of Vietnam is is a lot more fish based because we have a lot of fish food. So it's near like the coast and everything. And if you were up farther north, you'd be more based on Chinese foods because it's so close to the Chinese border. So that's one region. And so if you were to like cook a traditional northern Vietnamese food, everyone would be like, oh, that's a Vietnamese food, but it's northern Vietnamese because it looks so Chinese.
Okay.
Which it's interesting. So it doesn't that's because it's a small region and it's already divided in that kind of food. So if you were to, I guess, to expand into like China and then Europe to like bigger territories, I suppose. That's all I know.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, I guess there must be like huge regional differences because for really large countries, there's no way that the whole country is all eating the same kinds of things.
Yeah, I guess it's geography too, right?
Yeah. What's available.
Exactly, like what vegetables are available in what region.
Yeah.
Like I think, Canada's a really good example because especially if you go to like Northwest Territories or something, they probably have totally different cuisine than what we have, right?
Totally different. Yeah.
Definitely.
Maybe more of that deer and stuff that you want to try.
Try moose meat and that kind of stuff too.
Caribou.
Snow hare.
Yeah. So that's it's really interesting. Like as you were saying, Hong, that and as everyone was saying, talking about the availability of things, but you are actually talking about the location as well too. So it just shows that this culture of food is influenced by so many different factors, even just being close to another country. So, example, we're pretty close to South America as well, so we have a lot of influences from there that the foods will look different, but it's almost similar. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting.
I thought it was kind of interesting too because I always assumed that North American food was influenced by European food because we all have pasta and Italian food and like that kind of stuff. But then when you look at like the British food like shepherd's pie or blood pudding, that
fish
kind
and
of
chips.
Yeah, it's not a traditional thing that you see in North America as often.
Yeah.
Or like I don't know what else is there. Blood sausage, which is something that North Americans will probably not be very interested in.
Yeah.
I don't think
people say we always like Canada doesn't have food or like. What did they say?
Food culture?
Food culture. But I think we do because we don't resemble any other countries.
Yeah, well, because we're so multicultural. Maybe that's almost because we're so multicultural. It made a new food culture, because everything is kind of combined.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, well, maybe my last question will just be around our favorite cultural foods. And so, again, we talked a little bit about it before and saying, talking about our cultural backgrounds, and those are our cultures. So, it's the foods that are like outside of our culture that we would consider cultural. So, what is your favorite thing to try outside of your own culture?
Does hamburgers count?
Sure, why not? It is North American cultured food.
Oh, I feel like it's cheating.
Well, like I said earlier, I really like Mexican food.
Yeah.
Going to the Lone Star, it's almost kind of Mexican. But also, I don't. It's kind of weird. I like the Outback too, but that's Australian, which is really similar to Canada. But because they're on total opposite spectrums of the world, they have their own foods too, which is pretty neat. I like Australian food. Well, when I go to the Outback, I'm not sure if it's traditional Australian. They have what they call a bloomin' onion, which is just an onion and deep fry it. And they have a chipotle sauce.
That was Australian.
I think that's Australian because that's where I've only seen it. So.
Oh, okay.
I've never heard of that. Sounds
They always have them at the Rib Fest.
It's very good.
Yeah. Which, again, I would not eat. See how bad.
You don't eat ribs?
No, I eat ribs. I don't eat.
You just don't eat bloomin' onions.
Bloomin' onions.
Oh, somewhere in Australia, someone's very sad.
Anybody else? Like what?
I like Greek food. Feta cheese, shawarmas, falafel.
Gyros too.
Yeah, those are good.
I like spicy foods in general. So I prefer like a lot of the regions that tend to like blast their food with hot sauce.
So you're an Indian food fan then?
Probably. Indian and Thai food are my favorites because they're just, it's like full of chilies and stuff like that. It's good for your sinuses.
Do you like hot sauce too?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, hot
Sriracha.
sauce is good.
I'm a sriracha fan.
Yes.
That's not even a cultural. Yeah, that's not even a cultural food. That's like just general hot sauce.
Yeah. It's kind of like Frank's hot sauce.
Yeah.
Too, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it's hard for me to say because I came from such a mixed background that a lot of stuff is not really cultural to me. I mean, in terms of, again, talking about the differences of example, I've had Indian food at home, like food from Africa, like from the Hispanic region. I haven't really tried any Australian food, but it's hard to say. And being like not a big foodie person, I like to try all different things. I don't really have a favorite. So I would eat food from my own region and from different places once they are edible in my mind. So okay, well, all right, so we've been talking about food. We're from all different cultural backgrounds, so I'd like everyone to share one food from their own cultural background that they would like people to try. I don't know if you'll be able to get these in the restaurants here in Guelph, but if you do travel sometime, you can try these dishes out. So for me, it would be a combination of, there's a dish called cuckoo. So it's made of cornmeal. When I see it, I don't want to eat it, but when I eat it, it's great. So you can try that. Usually people eat it with some kind of sauce. So whether it's like a stew with fish, which I won't eat, or even something like chicken stew, but that's what they eat it with. Another recommendation is callaloo. Again, it's something that when I see it, it's appealing to me, but when other people see it, they don't like it because it's, they're callaloo leaves, but they pretty much look like spinach, and it's all like blended up with okra, and so it looks very soupy, and it's not really physically attractive, but it tastes awesome. So those are two things I recommend people trying, and those are different from what you would see every day in like a Caribbean restaurant, for example.
How do you spell those?
Okay, so cuckoo is COOCOO, and callaloo is CALLALOO.
Okay,
and you can look them up. Exactly.
Exactly what I'm gonna do. For me, my recommendation would be a shrimp mango salad. I think that I believe that Vietnamese food is known for like its freshness because it's very vegetable based. So eat your vegetables. The mango salad is basically what it sounds like. It's a blend of a bunch of julienne vegetables like cucumber, carrots, celery, with mango. And it's not the mango that you see in like, it's not the really yellow mango, but it's the red and green mango that's kind of like firm. It's not really soft, but it's kind of firm. And then you slice all those up, and then you put some shrimp on there, and it's really good with the sort of like a salty fish sauce kind of thing, and it's really, really good. I recommend that.
Well, I know for Canadian diets, we usually get like a lot of meat in our diets, like steaks or hamburgers or even hot dogs, I guess. But other than that, I like to think a staple Canadian food would be poutine, which is essentially just fries, cheese curds, and gravy. It's very simple, but it's very delicious. And also, there's a pastry. It's called beaver tails. It's just a pastry in the shape of a beaver tail, and you can put different spices on it. I know there's a chocolate banana. You cut up slices of banana into chocolate sauce, or you can get like almost like a cinnamon bun kind of feel. You get icing on it. It's very good. So
Yummy.
I recommend that.
That is so good.
I guess when I was little, one of my favorite things to have, it's kind of like a big ceremony type of food. We'd have Peking duck. So the server will come up if you're at a restaurant, have the duck there. It's barbecued, and then they slice it in front of you, and then you get kind of these flat dough wraps. And then you take it out, you take your duck, you add sauce, you add cucumbers, and it's just, and then you roll it up, and it's just very fun. And then I was thinking, dessert-wise, one of my favorite things, like Chinese ice cream, there are different flavors in here in America. So we have green tea ice cream, red bean ice cream, black sesame, and all those are really tasty.
Oh,
My gosh.
Never even heard of those before.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Well, quite a good learning experience all about food on our show today. And so I'd just like to thank Michelle and Mitch and Hong, as usual, for being here today.
Thank you, Candace.
Thanks a lot for having
Thank
me.
you.
It was fun.
Okay. And thanks for listening to another Radio Culturale show. And do tune in next week.